Adizwa never imagined her happiest day would turn into her deepest shame. At her wedding reception, surrounded by friends, family and well-dressed guests, she smiled through the music and laughter, believing her new life had just begun. But then Kunal, the man she thought loved her, stood before everyone with cold eyes. Without hesitation he ordered her out, his words sharp and humiliating. Gasps filled the hall, whispers spread like fire, and mocking laughter followed her steps as she stumbled toward the exit in disbelief. Every gaze cut into her heart. Every sneer reminded her that she had just been discarded like nothing, right in the middle of the celebration meant to honor her. As the crowd enjoyed her humiliation, Adizwa lowered her eyes, trembling but refusing to cry. She could hear some guests mocking her dress, others asking why she ever believed she deserved Kunal. The music faded, but the cruelty only grew louder. Kunal stood tall, proud of the scene he created, smirking as if victory belonged to him alone. For a moment, it felt as though the walls were closing in on her, leaving her crushed beneath shame and betrayal. But then, just as despair was about to break her, the entrance doors swung open. Lawyer Obinna stepped in, his voice commanding the room to silence. The papers in his hand drew every eye. He walked straight to the center, his presence strong and unshaken. Without delay, he announced the truth hidden from all. The contract he carried proved that Adizwa was not only Kunal's wife, but also the rightful co-owner of the grand new mansion Kunal had bragged about. The revelation cut through the whispers, and suddenly, the same mouths that had mocked her were left wide open in shock. Kunal's smirk vanished, replaced by panic as he reached for the papers. But Obinna held firm, reading aloud the legal details that secured Adizwa's position. The crowd gasped louder, the laughter now turning against Kunal. Guests who had ridiculed her only moments before shifted their eyes, ashamed of their cruelty. Adizwa lifted her head, her dignity restored in an instant. Where she had been treated as nothing, now she stood as someone untouchable. In that single moment the power turned. Kunal's pride collapsed, while Adizwa, once pushed aside, became the true center of the room. The mansion, the wealth, the respect. It was hers too, and nothing he did could erase that truth. The hall buzzed with new whispers, not of pity, but of awe, as Adizwa walked forward with quiet strength, no longer the broken bride, but the woman who owned everything he tried to take away. Nkem is humiliated at her anniversary party, when her husband Olalekan drags her out. The night that was supposed to celebrate their years together quickly turns into a nightmare. The hall is decorated with golden lights, music plays softly, and everyone is dressed in their best clothes. Guests are laughing, eating, and raising glasses when suddenly Olalekan grabs Nkem by the arm. His voice rises above the music as he shouts at her, calling her unworthy and embarrassing her in front of everyone. The hall falls silent, and all eyes turn to them. Shocked whispers move from table to table, as Nkem is pulled harshly toward the exit. Some people laugh behind their hands, others shake their heads, but no one dares to speak for her. Her heart pounds as she stumbles out of the hall, her dress brushing against the floor. The pain of betrayal stings more than the roughness of his grip. She looks back one last time, seeing faces filled with judgment and pity. The celebration she thought was for love becomes the stage for her deepest disgrace. Tears blur her vision, but she refuses to let them fall. Olalekan stands tall, chest out, proud of his cruel display, as if proving his power in front of the wealthy crowd. For a moment, Nkem feels like everything has been stripped from her, her voice silenced in the very place that should have honored her. But only a few minutes pass before the atmosphere in the room shifts again. The doors open, and Lawyer Zubair walks in with a steady step, carrying a stack of official papers. His voice is calm yet commanding, and instantly all the guests turn toward him. He clears his throat and announces a truth that stuns the entire room. The documents he holds prove that Nkem is not a guest in the shadow of her husband's wealth. She is the rightful owner of the very company that paid for the luxurious party. Gasps ripple across the hall, fans stop waving, and even the laughter dies completely. Olalekan's smile freezes, his confidence crumbles, and he reaches out in panic, but the lawyer continues to read out loud. Every word echoes like a heavy drumbeat, exposing the lie he tried to hide. Guests who had mocked Nkem moments ago now look at her with respect, their shame painted across their faces. The music stops, but the energy in the hall rises. Nkem walks back in, her head high, her silence more powerful than any speech. Where she had been dragged out in disgrace, she now returns as the woman who truly owns everything around them. Igioma's husband Chibuzo throws her out during a family gathering. The house is filled with relatives, laughter, and the smell of food when suddenly his voice cuts through the noise. In front of uncles, aunties, cousins, and elders, he points at her and tells her to leave. His tone is sharp, his words cruel, and the crowd stares in silence. Chairs scrape, children stop playing, and whispers begin to spread as he pulls her toward the door. Igioma's face burns with shame, her heart heavy as people she respected look at her with pity and gossip. The feast that should have been about love and unity turns into a scene of public humiliation. Her steps are slow as she moves toward the exit, her spirit breaking under the weight of disgrace. Some relatives shake their heads, others smirk, enjoying the drama, and no one stands up for her. Chibuzo's chest swells with pride, as though he has proved his authority in front of everyone. The embarrassment feels unbearable, her hands tremble, and her lips press tightly together to hold back tears. At that moment, it seems her dignity has been ripped away completely. Then the room changes. The door opens and Lawyer Fola walks in, carrying a sealed envelope. His expression is serious, his presence demanding attention. The chatter fades, and all eyes shift to him. With calm authority, he unfolds the papers and announces that he has come with the final will of Igioma's late father. The words strike like thunder as he declares that Igioma has been named the sole heir of vast lands, properties, and wealth. The inheritance is far greater than anything Chibuzo has ever owned or controlled. Gasps fill the room. The same relatives who had just mocked her now sit frozen, their mouths open in disbelief. Chibuzo's pride collapses instantly, his face pale and his hands shaking as the reality hits him. Lawyer Fola continues reading, every line sealing the truth and lifting Igioma higher. She raises her head slowly, strength returning to her eyes, and for the first time that day, she feels the power shift in her favor. The hall that once echoed with her humiliation now buzzes with respect and awe. People rise from their seats, some even reaching for her hands, eager to be on her side. Igioma steps back into the room, no longer the woman thrown out but the rightful owner of everything her father left behind at her wedding. Bimp is humiliated by her husband Ade. The hall is glowing with lights, flowers fill the air with fragrance, and guests dressed in shining clothes clap and cheer when the couple enters. Music plays loudly, cameras flash, and smiles spread across faces. But in the middle of all that joy, Ade suddenly changes his tone. He pulls Bimp aside, raises his voice, and insults her in front of everyone. His words are sharp, cruel, and meant to break her spirit. The laughter stops, the music fades, and the hall grows silent as all eyes turn to the couple. Guests whisper behind their hands, some shake their heads, and others laugh softly, enjoying the drama. Bimp's heart pounds as shame covers her like a heavy cloth. She feels her cheeks burn, her legs weaken, and her soul sink. Ade smirks, enjoying the power he thinks he has. He acts proud, showing off as though the day belongs to him alone. He mocks Bimp openly, making her feel worthless in front of her family and friends. She stands frozen, unable to speak, surrounded by people who only add to her pain with their stares. The wedding that should have been her dream has turned into a nightmare. She is seconds away from breaking down when the doors open. Lawyer Temitope steps inside with a calm but commanding presence, holding a folder in his hand. His voice cuts through the tension as he announces that he has important papers to present. The crowd leans closer, curious about what could be happening. He pulls out documents and begins to read. To the shock of everyone, the prenup agreement that Ade himself signed is revealed. The words on the paper state clearly that Bimp holds control over assets, businesses, and property that Ade believed were his alone. Gasps echo through the hall. The same people who mocked her moments earlier now look stunned. Ade's face turns pale, his proud smile disappearing as the truth sinks in. He reaches out in panic, but the lawyer continues reading every line, leaving no room for denial. Guests begin to laugh, but this time the laughter is directed at Ade. The tables turn in an instant, and the shame he tried to throw on Bimp falls back on him instead. Bimp straightens her shoulders, her dignity restored before everyone. She no longer feels small or powerless. The hall is filled with murmurs of respect, and eyes that once mocked her now shine with admiration. Ade, defeated, can only stand in silence as his own signature traps him, while Bimp walks forward with quiet strength, owning the very future he tried to steal. Zanil's husband Deo humiliates her before investors. The meeting is held in a grand hall, with long tables covered in files, glasses of water, and expensive suits filling the room. Deo speaks loudly, introducing himself as the mastermind behind the company, boasting about his hard work and vision. But when Zanil quietly offers to share a thought, he cuts her off in front of everyone. His tone is sharp, his words dripping with disrespect, calling her useless and irrelevant. The investors chuckle uncomfortably, some hiding their smiles, others shaking their heads as if agreeing with him. Zanil lowers her eyes, her cheeks burning, feeling small and unworthy in the very space she helped build. Deo continues his performance, strutting across the room, bragging about numbers, deals, and growth. He paints himself as the sole hero, ignoring the woman sitting beside him. Zanil's silence feels heavy, her heart pounding with pain as the man she trusted makes her look like nothing. The investors glance at her with pity, some whispering as though she is only a shadow in her husband's world. The air grows thick with judgment, and Zanil struggles to hold back the tears rising in her eyes. Just when it seems she has been erased completely, the doors open, and Lawyer Musa steps in, his presence strong and steady. The shuffle of papers in his hand catches everyone's attention. With calm authority, he announces he has documents to present. The investors lean forward, curiosity sparking. Musa lays the papers on the table, clearing his throat before revealing the truth. His voice rings out clearly. Zanil is not just a bystander, she is the registered co-founder of the very business Deo claims as his own. The room explodes in shock. Gasps spread like waves. The investors exchange wide-eyed glances, and even the assistants pause mid-step. Deo's confident smile vanishes, replaced by panic as he stares at the papers proving everything. He stutters, trying to explain, but Musa continues reading, line after line, showing Zanil's rightful position. The investors now turn their eyes toward her, respect replacing pity, admiration replacing doubt. Zanil slowly lifts her head, her strength shining through her silence. Where she was insulted moments earlier, she now stands tall as the woman who truly owns half of everything in the room. Deo, once proud and loud, shrinks before her as investors switch their loyalty. The tables turn completely, and Zanil, the silent partner, becomes the center of power. Amara is kicked out in front of relatives by her husband F. The family house is full of chatter, children running, women serving food, and men talking loudly when suddenly F raises his voice. He points at Amara, calling her names and demanding that she leave immediately. The room goes quiet as spoons freeze in midair and conversations stop. Gasps echo across the hall while some relatives look away, pretending not to see, and others whisper with judgment. Amara's heart races, her hands shake, and her eyes fill with tears as her own husband pushes her toward the door. The shame of being disgraced in front of family cuts deeper than any wound. F stands proudly, puffing out his chest as though he has achieved something by humiliating her. He looks around the room, expecting support, and a few people even nod in agreement, whispering that she has no place there. Amara lowers her head, feeling the weight of rejection, her voice stuck in her throat. The once warm gathering suddenly feels like a prison of shame. Every eye on her makes her feel smaller, weaker, and completely unwanted. Just as she reaches the doorway, footsteps echo behind her. Lawyer Chinyere enters, holding a file in her hand and a serious look on her face. The energy in the room shifts instantly. Relatives who were whispering moments ago fall silent, waiting to hear what is happening. Chinyere clears her throat and begins to read from the documents. The words she speaks are heavy with truth, cutting through the tension. She reveals that Amara is the rightful owner of the ancestral estate. The papers are signed, sealed, and stamped by the court. The entire room gasps. Faces that had mocked her moments earlier now turn toward F with shock and disbelief. His confidence crumbles as he stares at the evidence, his mouth opening and closing without words. Chinyere continues firmly, explaining that the land, the house, and everything tied to the family estate belong to Amara alone. No one can question it, no one can change it. Amara lifts her head slowly, strength returning to her eyes. She walks back into the room with quiet dignity, no longer the woman being thrown out, but the one who holds the key to everything. Relatives rush to her side, their whispers now filled with respect instead of pity. F's plan collapses before everyone, leaving him exposed, while Amara stands tall as the true owner of the legacy. Tola's husband Balaji embarrasses her before friends. The evening is meant to be a happy gathering, with laughter, music and glasses clinking around the table. Everyone is enjoying themselves until Balaji suddenly turns on her. His voice rises, filled with mockery, calling her names that sting deeply. The room falls quiet as his friends watch, some chuckling at her expense while others look away awkwardly. Tola's heart pounds as the man she trusted most shames her openly. She feels small under the weight of their stares, her hands trembling as she struggles to hold back tears. The joy of the evening fades into a dark cloud of disgrace. Balaji enjoys the attention, speaking louder, showing off his pride, and treating her as if she is worthless. He boasts about his wealth, his success, and how she has no claim to any of it. Friends nod, laugh, and join in the cruel moment, making Tola feel like she has no voice. Her chest tightens, her cheeks burn, and for a moment she believes she is completely powerless. The humiliation is deep, cutting through her spirit as everyone seems to side with him. Just as silence weighs heavy on her, the door opens and lawyer Kelechi enters. His calm but firm presence captures everyone's attention. He carries a file under his arm, and the room shifts instantly as he lays the documents on the table. Clearing his throat, he announces that he has something important to reveal. The guests lean forward, curious, while Balaji smirks, thinking nothing could challenge his words. Kelechi begins to read aloud. The papers prove that all of Balaji's property, money, and assets are legally willed to their unborn child. Until the child comes of age, everything is to be managed by Tola. The room gasps in shock. The very wealth Balaji bragged about no longer belongs to him, but is placed under her control for the future of their child. Balaji's face drains of color, his laughter dying in his throat. His friends exchange surprised glances, some even shaking their heads in disbelief. The shame he tried to throw on Tola comes crashing back onto him. She lifts her head slowly, her dignity shining through the pain. The same crowd that mocked her now looks at her with respect. The humiliation flips into victory as Tola rises, no longer the powerless wife, but the protector of her child's future, and the true holder of everything Balaji thought was his. Aisha is disgraced at a business dinner by her husband Sei. The evening is grand, with golden lights glowing over round tables, the sound of glasses clinking, and guests dressed in expensive suits and gowns. The event is meant to celebrate the launch of a new company, and everyone is excited, waiting to hear big announcements. As the host welcomes the guests, Sei stands tall, smiling proudly, speaking as though he alone is responsible for everything. Aisha sits quietly by his side, expecting to be acknowledged for her role, but instead he turns toward her with cold eyes. His words are harsh as he mocks her in front of investors, saying she has no place in business and should only sit pretty while men handle serious matters. Laughter spreads across the room as some guests join in his mockery, and Aisha's heart sinks in shame. She lowers her eyes, her fingers trembling under the table, feeling her dignity stripped away with each word. Sei continues to boast, parading himself as the only brain behind the project, ignoring the woman who has worked silently behind the scenes. The crowd claps for him, some whispering about Aisha's silence, while others shake their heads with pity. The humiliation is deep, the kind that crushes confidence and makes her want to disappear. But then the mood changes suddenly. The doors open, and Lawyer Funk steps into the hall, carrying a folder that immediately draws attention. Her voice is steady and powerful as she asks to speak. The clinking of glasses stops, the whispers fade, and all eyes turn toward her. She opens the documents and begins to read, her words slicing through the tension. The company that everyone has gathered to celebrate is not in Sei's name at all. Every paper, every registration detail shows clearly that it belongs to Aisha. The room gasps in shock. Investors lean forward in disbelief, staring at the evidence Funk holds. Sei's proud smile vanishes, his hands twitch nervously as he tries to protest, but the lawyer continues firmly, leaving no space for doubt. Guests who had laughed at Aisha moments earlier now clap in admiration. Aisha slowly raises her head, her quiet strength shining brighter than the chandeliers above. Where she had been mocked, she is now celebrated. The humiliation turns into victory as the crowd applauds her courage and power, while Sei shrinks in shame, exposed before everyone. Aisha becomes the true face of the company, standing tall in her own right. Kemi's husband Uchenna throws her out during a lavish party. The hall sparkles with crystal lights, tables covered in silver, and music filling the air as guests enjoy food and laughter. Everyone is in high spirits, celebrating Uchenna's supposed success. But suddenly his voice rises above the music, sharp and cruel. He points at Kemi, calling her worthless, and demands she leave at once. The crowd falls silent, forks freeze in midair, and whispers ripple through the room. Some guests smirk, others whisper behind their hands, and a few shake their heads in pity. Kemi's face burns with shame as the man she trusted strips her of dignity in front of everyone. She lowers her eyes, her heart heavy as she makes her way toward the door. The sound of laughter and gossip trails behind her, cutting deeper than any blade. Uchenna stands proudly, chest out, bragging to the crowd that he doesn't need her, that everything they see belongs to him alone. The humiliation is unbearable, but Kemi remains silent, refusing to let her tears fall. The party continues, but the energy shifts, a cruel show playing out before an audience eager for drama. Just as she reaches the exit, the doors swing open and a lawyer steps in, his presence commanding immediate attention. He carries a folder under his arm, his eyes steady as he walks past the shocked guests. Without hesitation, he announces he has urgent documents to present. The chatter dies instantly, and all eyes turn toward him. He places the papers on the table and begins to read aloud. To everyone's surprise, the documents reveal that earlier that very day Kemi had frozen all of Uchenna's bank accounts. Every naira he boasted about, every account he claimed control over, is now locked under her authority. Gasps echo across the hall. Uchenna's proud smile fades, replaced by panic as the reality sinks in. His hands tremble, his voice cracks as he tries to deny it, but the lawyer continues, presenting sealed confirmation from the bank. The crowd bursts into murmurs, some even laughing at the dramatic twist. The same people who mocked Kemi moments ago now turn their eyes on her with respect. Uchenna collapses in shock, his strength gone, his pride shattered. Kemi straightens her shoulders, her dignity restored. She walks back with calm steps, no longer the woman humiliated but the one in full control, while the man who disgraced her is left broken before everyone. Halima is kicked out by her husband Yusuf in front of political leaders. The hall is filled with power and influence. Men in fine suits and women in elegant gowns gathered for an important meeting. Yusuf speaks loudly, shaking hands, smiling proudly, acting like the perfect host. But then, in front of everyone, his voice hardens as he turns to Halima. His words are sharp, cruel, and meant to break her spirit. He accuses her of being a burden, and commands her to leave. Gasps echo through the hall as leaders stare in disbelief. Some whisper. Others laugh quietly, while Halima lowers her head, her cheeks burning with shame. The weight of humiliation crushes her as the man she trusted pushes her aside in front of powerful eyes. Yusuf stands tall, his pride swelling, believing he has won respect by silencing her. He talks about his achievements, boasting of his clean name and success, while Halima slowly walks toward the door, her heart breaking with every step. The air is heavy with judgment, and no one speaks in her defense. For a moment, it seems her voice and dignity have been stolen forever. But then the sound of footsteps fills the hall as lawyer Adebayo enters. His presence alone silences the whispers. In his hands are thick files, sealed with authority. He clears his throat and declares he has urgent documents to present. The leaders lean forward, curious, their attention now fixed on him. He opens the files and begins to read. His voice rings out, strong and steady, exposing shocking details. The man everyone praised, the host of the evening, Yusuf himself, is tied to fraud, illegal deals, and corruption. The hall explodes in murmurs, disbelief spreading across the room. Yusuf's smile fades instantly, his face turning pale as Adebayo continues to reveal evidence. Every word strikes like lightning, stripping away his pride and power. Leaders exchange angry glances, some shake their heads, and others turn away from him completely. The man who mocked his wife now stands alone, his reputation destroyed in front of the very people he tried to impress. Halima slowly raises her head, her strength shining through her silence. The same leaders who had pitted her now look at her with respect. She is no longer the woman cast aside. She is the one who stood strong while truth uncovered her husband's lies. In that moment, She becomes the heroine, while Yusuf faces the disgrace he thought he would never see. Bustius. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe. Bye.